Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. I balanced the bakery box in one hand and my car keys in the other, my heart oddly fluttery. It had been 9 months since I'd seen my family, longer than usual. But I made sure to keep the bills paid, the health insurance renewed, and the refrigerator stocked from afar. This time I was returning with more than money. I was bringing time, presents, gifts. The driveway looked the same, only the car parked beside Dad's rusted truck wasn't one I recognized. Sleek. Black. New. It looked expensive. I stepped inside calling out, "Mom? Dad? Peggy?" The scent of cinnamon and lemon polish filled the air, and for a second I was 10 again, rushing in after school. Then I noticed no one came to the door, just muffled voices from the living room. When I stepped in, they were all there. Mom seated stiffly. Dad standing like a judge behind her. Peggy on the armrest in a satin blouse and red lipstick far too rich for a stay-at-home artisan. "Oh," Peggy said flatly, "you're not part of this family anymore, Rebecca." His voice was cold. Final. I blinked. "Wait. What? What are you talking about?" Peggy folded her arms, her smirk twitching. "Don't be dramatic. It's been coming for a while." Mom didn't meet my eyes. She just stared at her lap as if praying to vanish. "You paid your dues," Dad said, walking over to the table. "And we thank you for that. But don't expect to walk in here like everything's normal. It's not. We've moved on." My chest tightened. "You've moved on from your daughter?" "No," he snapped. "From a liability." I stood frozen, the box slipping from my fingers. It hit the floor with a dull thud. "I've paid your mortgage. I covered your surgeries. I sent money every month." "That was your choice," Peggy interrupted. "Don't act like it makes you a martyr." I stared at them all. At the luxury handbag by Mom's chair. At the gleaming new ring on Peggy's finger. At the quiet guilt in my mother's posture. No one told me anything was wrong. "Because nothing is," Dad said. "As long as you're not involved." I turned to the door slowly, heart pounding so hard it hurt. "Is this about money? What happened?" "You asked too many questions," Peggy muttered. "Maybe that's why no one missed you." I didn't cry as I walked out. I didn't scream. I just left the gifts where they were, unopened, unwanted. The sun had set by the time I reached my car. And as I sat behind the wheel, the silence inside me cracked. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong. And I wasn't going to rest until I found out what it was. I didn't sleep that night. My phone glowed in the dark, displaying years' worth of bank transfers and invoices. $12,000 here for roof repairs. $8,700 for dental surgery. $31,000 for Peggy's emergency, a mysterious lump sum I'd wired last spring without asking questions. I had trusted them blindly. Each transaction felt like a bruise I just discovered. By morning, my pulse buzzed with suspicion. I logged into the shared financial platform I'd set up for my parents years ago. My fingers trembled as I clicked through the tabs: water bills, electric, cable, even a grocery delivery account. All of it still active. Still tied to my credit card. I clicked cancel on every single. I clicked the photo, barely breathing. The building was valued at $1.4 million. Fully paid. No mortgage. I reached for my laptop and opened the property registry. Owner, Margaret Wilkins. Co-signer, Nancy Wilkins. My mother. I stared, then whispered aloud, "They used my money." Then I discovered Peggy had bought a luxurious house in the mountains. I shot up, dizzy with rage. Every dollar I'd sent for medical emergencies or home repairs had bought them that glass castle. I hadn't just been cast out. I'd funded their betrayal. Later that night, Peggy texted me. "Peggy, that was rude, by the way. Cutting them off like that. Very immature." I stared at the screen before typing. "Me, tell me something. When you opened that spa and bought a house in the mountains, did you even flinch knowing you were spending my money?" The dots blinked, then disappeared. No reply came. Inside was a ledger showing hundreds of thousands flowing through accounts tied to my name. Money I had never touched. And at the bottom of the page, something that made my blood run cold. My signature. Scribbled beside a general power of attorney. Dated 11 months ago. Right after my car accident. I remembered how everything was a blur after the surgical anesthesia. The hospital bed. The faces leaning over me. I remembered Dad handing me a clipboard. "Just insurance stuff," he'd said. "Sign here, sweetheart." I had. My hands began to shake. The phone nearly slipped from my grip as I called my lawyer, Gwen Meyer. They created a company in my name, I told her, voice trembling. I think they used my signature while I was under anesthesia to set up a company and assign a general power of attorney. Gwen's voice was firm. Don't say another word. Come to my office. Bring everything. Before leaving, I paid a visit to my neighbor, Mrs. Ortega, who lived across from my parents. Her security cameras always pointed toward their driveway. She met me at the door in her robe. You got a moment? I asked. She blinked. If it's about the night they came home with those briefcases, I've still got the footage. My breath caught. They committed fraud, Rebecca, she said flatly. And they dragged you down with them. I had spent my entire life thinking family meant protection. But by Tuesday morning I knew better. Gwen connected me with a forensic accountant, Russell Crane. He looked like a man who hadn't smiled in a decade, which strangely reassured me. These aren't just sloppy transfers, Russell said, spreading printouts across the table. They're deliberate layers. Shell accounts, circular transactions. He tapped a line with a pen. Here. Peggy Spa used your business account to purchase designer inventory, then funneled profits into an offshore fund. So they've been laundering through my name, I whispered. Russell nodded. And it's no accident. The words hit me like a slap. My identity hadn't just been stolen, it had been weaponized. Later that afternoon, I met Mrs. Ortega again. She handed me a flash drive. I don't know what this will prove, but they weren't careful. She hesitated. Rebecca, your sister came by last week. She asked if I had any recordings. My stomach turned. What did you tell her? She gave a thin smile. That I deleted them. I returned to Gwen's office. You're a liability now, Rebecca, she said grimly. They know you've seen too much. You're not just the daughter they erased anymore. You're the threat they didn't plan for. I clenched my jaw. Then it's time they start to worry. Realizing her legal duty, Gwen reported the suspicious activities to the authorities, and I took the paperwork to court. That night, I wired the proceeds from my SUV sale into a separate legal fund. I was preparing for war. The courtroom was cold, intentionally so, I suspected, to rattle the nerves. Mine didn't shake. Not anymore. Peggy sat across from me, arms folded, dressed in her finest designer suit, her face twisted into a performative pout. My parents sat beside her, stiff and pale. For the first time, they weren't in control. The judge's voice rang out. A stunned silence fell. Then Peggy shrieked. You can't do this to us. We're family. I stood slowly. Exactly. And that's what makes it unforgivable. She lunged forward but was restrained by guards, her manicured nails scratching the table as she screamed my name like a curse. Afterward, I walked outside into sunlight I hadn't felt in months. Gwen joined me on the steps. They underestimated you. No, I said softly. They forgot who raised me to be strong, and I used it against them. As we parted, I glanced down at my phone. A message from a real estate agent. Mountain home now listed under your recovered assets. Ready to visit? I smiled. From victim to victor. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.